Hello and welcome to another interesting episode of Everyone is a Designer podcast by Femola Carrot. I am Femi and of course I am the Carrot. In today's episode we're going to be talking about something quite different from the norm, something we tagged I don't know how to be a designer. And helping in today's episode is nobody but Oselu Irabo. We call him Lou. Well, Lou studied industrial design in the Federal University of Technology and is currently a self-taught product illustrator. And is currently teaching himself motion design and figuring out ways to make motion design profitable. When he's not on some designs, he's recording the best conversations for his podcast, Pinocchio. Why not join us as we dissect this interesting topic? All right, welcome back, everybody. It's been a very, very, very long time that we've released a podcast from Femola Carrots. The whole lockdown and the whole physical to virtual transition was a lot. It's really had a toll on the podcast. There were projects that spanned for 2 months, 3 months. That it's a new shift. The creative guys are the hot cake now. But without further ado, let's just jump into today's podcast. We plan it to be short, simple, and precise. But I doubt if it's going to be like that, because today's topic is a very, very interesting topic with no other person but Fabian. We call him Lou. His name is Osaluname. Well, he's going to pronounce the name for everybody. And while we were talking some weeks back, initially wanted to do this podcast weeks back, but a lot of things came up, like I discussed, like I said earlier before now. And Fabian came up with a very interesting topic, and I was like, that really sounds right nice. And it's birthed the topic for today's podcast, which is I don't know how to be a designer. So today we're going to be looking critically into Fabian's design journey. So Fabian, up to you.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Osaluname Irabo. Femi was close to pronouncing it properly. Osaluname Irabo. My English name is Fabian, obviously, so a lot of people from uni knew me as Fabian. I'm Nigerian. I'm from Edo State. I draw stuff. I like to say I like to draw. At the moment, I'm a product illustrator. Like, I taught myself how to be a product illustrator. I'm currently teaching myself how to make my illustrations move, like motion design. So that's what I do now. I'm a couple of other things, but at least for the sake of this pod, I will just say I'm a product illustrator and a motion designer in training. Yeah.
Wow, that's a big one. Well, just to start this podcast, like we promised everybody, it's going to be a short one.
Yeah.
Can you just tell us your design journey from, remember where we were in school then, before, yeah. So you wanted to do something and something brought you into design. Yeah.
When Femi reached out, I didn't even know why he reached out, because in my head, I don't take myself as seriously as a designer, really. So when he even reached out, the first thing that came to my mind was the topic should definitely be I don't know how to be a designer, because that's honestly the truth. I started out as every other Nigerian kid that, I want to do engineering now. You're good in science class, you're good in class, okay, boom, I want to be an engineer, But I think looking, like, in hindsight, I think I've always been able to sketch, like, I've been able to just use my pen on paper, integrated science in class, just drawing those what's it called? Then in school, when we do like science classes, there are always drawings. You draw the heart,
Yeah, the
biology
heart,
and all that.
the
Yeah, so
reproductive
I've
system,
always been quite
digestive
proficient.
system.
Yeah, yeah. They may have not been very artistic, but for some reason I was just good at like joining them to be at least better than the average student in class. So I wanted to study engineering, then I failed my jam. No, I failed my post-UTME rather. So my cutoff wasn't enough for engineering, so I had to pick a different course. Young kid, 17 years old. I was between marine engineer, marine metallurgical and materials engineering, estate management, and industrial design. I didn't know what those three were, but industrial design just sounded really cool. I was like, oh, yeah, I like how this sounds. I like this one, So that's how I picked it, honestly. So I got into uni. I thought, oh, okay, everybody's sketching. All the money are sketching with sketch pads and everything. Okay, this is cool. So that's really how I got into industrial design. And 5 years, I met different people that had different levels of design skill. Even at that time, I didn't even know design wasn't really like a thing in my head. Like all of it was just like new information. See people that were doing graphic design, see people that could draw very well, see people that could do different things. Now in 2020, yeah, the range of what a designer could be, yeah, is very clear now. But then in school, it was not as clear as it is now. At that time, graphic design was just all it was. Graphic design. We didn't know, even the industrial design that we know what it is now. Then we didn't even know that there were possibilities as much then. So in school, then 100 level, 200 level, 300 level, I picked textiles because I just had a liking for it. And one thing about me is I just have this internal voice or internal voice of reason that I'm not afraid to do things my own way. Even sometimes I'm on some bullshit, it may be wrong, but if it just clicks in my head, I'm like, boom, this is what I want to do. So textile at that time, I had to pick between textile, ceramics, or graphics, at least as Femi would know. And it was even odd at that time that I picked textiles because most of my guys were in graphics. But I really just wanted to do textiles, really. Like, why? It wasn't a deep reason. I just liked it, So, and I genuinely liked it, to be honest. So I did textile for 300, 400, 500. From textile, it segued into fashion, and I was doing fashion design like full time, like proper, the whole 9 yards, making clothes, making textile designs and whatnot. And I was enjoying it, But in between all of that, I think when I was going for my internship, I knew I wanted to go to Lagos because Lagos was like the hub of fashion at that time. Fashion is not as cool as it was. Currently now what is cool is probably like photography, animation. But that time, 2013, 2014, bro, fashion was hot, you get me? So I knew I needed to be in Lagos, So I was thinking like, how do I get into this space? Okay, boom. I knew I was not as good as a like tailor in co. I wasn't good at sewing very well. I was still learning. So I from research, I just knew that okay, fashion illustration was a thing. So I started teaching myself how to make fashion illustrations. Okay, I learned it proper. Like I spent time. So I had a portfolio of like illustrations. So that was really what I took to Lagos. And when I was younger, I was very bold and like when you're naive and you're not afraid. Then I was bold. I was like, go to Lagos and I'm interning in Lagos. And I was sending emails to different fashion houses. I went to Lagos, boom, in a month, 2 months, I got an internship and I worked with the fashion designer. I think that was how that part of my journey started fully, because at least working full-time in fashion, you're seeing how it works and like, okay, this is something I really want to do. So I did that, came back to school, developed my project, everything. Oh, so Fabian is a fashion designer. Yeah, so then I finished uni. I was still like fashion, I was really, I'm so thankful for that period of my life because I honestly gave it all my all, But I'm just anchoring on that fashion illustration part because it will lead to the other parts of my conversation or my story. So after uni, did fashion for a year, 2 years, did my NYSC too. Then I was always the fashion guy that could make clothes, but understood textiles, understood fabric, understood colors, could sketch ideas. So I always had that dichotomy, or I had that range sort of. But the more I was doing fashion, the more I knew I didn't want to sew because I wasn't enjoying it as much. It was tiring and I'm quite lazy. So sitting on the machine, it wasn't just clicking. And my brain was slow to pick up the basics, And there's some things, when you're doing some things, you just know that this thing is taking me too long to figure this thing out, as much I understand that learning new things, there's like a hurdle for there's always like a hurdle before you figure things out. But sewing clothes wasn't just clicking for me. So I was like, okay, let me just major on the other side. Okay, understanding fabrics, fabric sourcing, fabric textile techniques, and fashion illustration and whatnot. So I did that. I worked with a couple of designers. Now I joke around and say I did the whole 9 years in fashion. Like nothing freaks me again in terms of fashion. I'm not even interested, because I'm like, I've been there, done that. None of it freaks me, because behind the scene I've seen almost all of it. So I did that. Then but in between all of this, I've always been the guy that communicates very well. I've always been not passionate, but I just knew how to write. I knew how to communicate what I thought. I've been quite opinionated from a very young age. So there's always been a little bit of writing here and there in the head. I've always been writing. So while the more I was doing fashion, the more I started losing love for it. I wasn't enjoying it. But it was scary at that time, because I was like, how have I done this for like 4 years? And I've got to this point where I don't want to do it again. That's how I was feeling in my heart. But I didn't want to. I was afraid to take action on those thoughts, because I was like, oh, I probably have lost 4 years. You understand? But I had to make the hard decision and say, okay, yes, we've done this, but we need to find out something that is different for ourselves. And that's why now, when I say I don't know how to be a designer now, it's pretty much, at that time I had to realize that, for me, in my opinion, I think anybody can be anything. You can decide. I can decide today that I want to be an astronaut. That's why I call myself. There's a nickname I give myself, astronautic. It's like French for astronaut. And I said astronaut because I don't like labels anymore. So when I call myself an astronaut, in my head I'm like, I know I will never be an astronaut. Like being an astronaut is like a very, very far goal. So calling myself an astronaut is just like a metaphor for, I don't know what I want to be, yeah? So if I call myself an astronaut, you can't put any pressure on me, because I feel today I can decide I want to be a rapper, yeah? And if I commit 4 years committed into learning the game, in 5 years I could start to release albums. I could decide that I want to be an actor, and I can commit myself. That's how I think. I think human beings are that diverse. We are that complex, and we can be and learn anything. That's in my opinion. That's subject to anybody's opinion, but that's how I just feel about it. So after I just saw I lost love with fashion, I was like, oh boom, I need to do something else. I need to survive. I need to be able to make money now. I need to not be hungry. So it was very confusing, really, and nobody understood that, because I was quite good in school. I had good grades. The whole usual. You went to school, you had a good grades, So people pretty much figured that, oh, Fabian is already a fashion guy. Like everybody outside, even my family, my friends, this is what you do. But for me, I was already having that identity crisis, because I was like, I don't want to do this anymore, but I don't know what I want to do. You understand? So it was just me and myself. Then I started working in content. I at that time I had to now start to develop the beginner's mindset, the mindset of being a learner. Because when you've done 4 years in one thing and you are dropping it, you're starting from zero. So when you're starting from zero, the advantage of starting from zero is there is no precedent, there is no pressure, there is no, like, you're in zero. So what that can happen in zero? So I had to now start becoming a learner, becoming a beginner at everything. So I was very curious at that time. I started researching, what can I do? So content was a thing I was into. So I was always writing. The social media marketing was something that could work along with content. So I did that for a while. While I was doing that my fashion illustration thing was always there. Femi will know this, because Femi, we went to uni together. Femi was always studying on my notes and notepads. Like, I'm always, if I'm talking to somebody, I get distracted. So whenever I'm talking to you, I'm always scribbling. You understand? My notes scribbling everywhere. So this scribbling thing was always it was always there, even when I was trying to figure everything out. And that's one lesson I learned was, I think it's important that you expose yourself to a lot of information. That's why now what I do is I listen to a lot of things, even things that are not in the path that I am in. And that was a mistake I made when I was in uni. I remember there was a time, Femi, I don't know if you remember, when Femi, my guys, them Dayo, when they were doing graphic design, because now I really admire and I love when I see Dayo, I see you, I see Maz. Maz used to do motion design when I didn't even know what motion design was. Like, these guys already knew what they wanted to do early, But at that time, I was not as exposed to as much information to understand what they were on about. I could see what they were doing. I kind of understood what they were doing, but I didn't understand the importance of it. And sometimes, it could be like you could be in a place where they are like gold, where there's like gold, yeah. But if you don't know what gold is for, you will just be there in your head. You're like, what is this? You understand? So even when Femi, now when I see Femi doing 3D, I'm like, bro, I know Femi has been doing 3D since I've known him like since forever. I can track it back to like 2013. Femi has been on cinema before. Cinema 4D was cool. Now that people are like cinema 4D, Femi has been on that pew with all those old laptops. My friend, for real now, So yeah, so at that time, I wasn't as exposed to as much information. I was not as curious. I was curious, but I was not as curious as necessary. So me dropping fashion and saying I want to figure something else, I had to not develop that curiosity. And by developing curiosity means I was learning with intention now, because I'm learning this thing and I need to use whatever it is I'm learning to become something useful. You understand? So doing content, then I was always illustrating every now and then. Then there was one time I did a class with some people, and there was a lady that just said, "Oh, I like your illustrations, but I think you should make it digital." I did. Okay. Then Instagram was a thing. I was always on Instagram, always posting. But one thing I'm grateful for, even when I was not as curious then, was I've always been putting myself out there. Like I've always been sharing my journey. I've always been like, if you know me, then when I was very big on Instagram, I was always on Instagram. I was always posting because that was honestly how I was feeling. I was not afraid to share my journey, So I was always posting. But when I was always on Instagram, I used to always see like illustrations, digital illustrations, different styles, different patterns. I'm like, how did you do this thing? Because I know that I'm doing my illustrations with pencil and paper and colors, I was always wondering, how do they do this thing? Then I was still going up. I was already building a career on the side, like as a content person, UX writing, content development, social media marketing, and whatnot. Then I think it was 2019. 2018, I'd come to Lagos, working in content, everything. Then 2019, I was working in a tech startup, and when I started seeing illustration, I was like, I need to figure out how this thing is done. Then YouTube, I started seeing, okay, this thing is going to take me back to the Photoshop I was running from. This is going to take me back to the Illustrator I have been avoiding. I just realized that, I'm going full circle. The thing when I see my friends they do, when I know pull heads, this is taking me back to that. Then there was now a hurdle. The hurdle was now, have I lost time? Why didn't I do this at that time? Why didn't I start on time? Will I be able to learn this thing? You understand? Those mental hurdles. That was the hurdle I was facing at early 2019. But then, and I didn't have my laptop was bad. So while I was working in content then, I just got a laptop and I got Photoshop at that time. Most tutorials I was learning from was vector illustrations, Adobe Illustrator, but I just had Photoshop. The laptop was really like, those dead laptops. Only Photoshop could work. Photoshop could work with it. But at that time, I was really ready. I was hungry to learn, so I didn't even care. At that time, I already got in that mentality of when I want to do something, I'm water. Any which way, I will figure it out. So even when I didn't have Illustrator, I was like, how can I do this Illustrator thing with Photoshop? So I was learning it from scratch. Tutorials. I already had an end goal. Now when I knew the output, I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to do it. So now it was more. Nobody needed to even motivate me this time because I knew that I want to be able to do this thing. So I reverse engineered it now, and I did it from the back. I want to be able to illustrate. That was really the thing in my head. I want to be able to illustrate like this thing I'm seeing on Pinterest and on Instagram. So that's how I started using Photoshop. Just practicing every day. Really watch a tutorial here, watch a tutorial there. Try out this thing, try out that thing. Every now and then I'll just message my friend and be like, "Brad, you see this thing? How did they do this thing?" So I was just really very, very curious like that. Then mid 2019. I got Illustrator, and things when you're learning something new, it's hard, it's stressful, it's frustrating. Then you just hit something and something just clicks, and when it clicks, confidence now comes. You're like, oh, okay, I'm getting the hang of this. So mid 2019, I got Illustrator and tried a couple of designs, tried a couple of illustrations. Then one day I mimicked a cassette player. I can't ever forget that day. And it just clicked. I was like, oh my God. I legit was crying that day because I was crying because I knew that I had broken a glass ceiling. And confidence came. I started doing it more and more and more. Then the more I understood the tool as Illustrator, the more I understood Illustrator itself as a tool, then I started studying and learning about illustration itself and the different ways to express it. So at that time, I just really wanted to just illustrate, really. Like I used to always do before, and like I said, I used to do fashion illustrations before. So this time I just wanted to express those illustrations I used to do before and how I do, but this time with Illustrator. So that's what I was just really doing. Then one of the places I was working as a content person, I got a gig from via Twitter, to be honest, at a tech startup. At that time, the guy wanted illustrations for his app, you know. I was like, yeah, I think I can do it. I've never done it before, but I said I could do it because, you know, as at least as a designer, when you see some designs, yeah, in your head, you can calculate these are, even if you've not done it before, you can just guess that these are the things that can be done to achieve. Yeah, that can be done to achieve it. So I'd seen the samples they sent me. I was like, yeah, I could do it. You know, so I did 2 illustrations and I sent it. They used it on their app. Then they needed a content person too. You know, and that's why now I feel the whole journey I've had, even as a fashion person, I know it's not useless. Like everything adds up one way or the other. So because I got a gig as a content person, content developer into the startup, then I was now doing illustrations for them on the side. I was the guy that was helping them with icons. If they needed icons, I'll just jump in. I'm like, right, I can do it. If they needed illustrations, do you need to edit what I did? So I was just helping them on the side. I didn't really take it as serious because I didn't really see like there are not a lot of illustrators that I could see that, you know, as a graphic designer, yeah, you could see people that you're like, I see this, my friend, this person, that person doing this. This is a path. But there was not really like a clear path for illustrators. So I was just practicing, being better at the tool and learning, and just doing my other work on the side for money, you know. Then that was still like the end of 2019. Then January, I was laid off. I and my friend. My friend is a UX designer, UI UX designer. We're both laid off because, you know, startups, things are not very stable, and they needed to reduce staff strength. So by that time, I was just caught between: do I want to continue as a content person, or do I want to just go on and be better at this design thing? You understand, this illustration thing, you know? So I chose the harder option: be better at this thing. Because it was not a challenge. You know, when you are learning, I think when you are learning a design tool, yeah, it's like conquering yourself, because a year ago you're not able to express yourself through this medium. Then you commit to it every day. You're showing up every day. You're practicing every day. You're making mistakes every day. You're looking foolish in front of the laptop every day, but you are seeing yourself make progress. You know, so that's the hard thing. That's a hard thing to do. So I chose that option, and I was like, yeah. Let me do this thing, you get me? So that's how I started like doing illustrations. Then at that time I didn't want to do UI UX, but UI UX was not even working. I was really enjoying doing, because I enjoyed doing already. So let me just figure out how to do very well with Illustrator. So that's how I started this. This year was really when I took it very seriously, and I just doubled down. Then I met a friend on Twitter. He needed illustrations too. He's a product designer. So when I was working with him, I was not saying that, okay, there's a space for this thing like this. So, you know, while working with him, I was not seeing why they needed illustrations. Yeah, doing research for projects with the guy, I was not seeing that there is like a whole, like almost a universe of illustrators for digital products. Both those are doing illustrations for people that for online publications. Those are doing illustrations for marketing, for magazines. Those are doing illustrations for book covers. Those are even doing illustrations for products, you know. I said that, there's a whole genre like for illustrations like this. So I was really excited. I just jumped right in, to be honest. I jumped head in. And since January, I've been working. Twitter has really helped me a lot, because at least I'm quite funny, I'm witty, I'm sarcastic, and I know how to communicate on Twitter already. So while I was always doing my Twitter talk, I was always putting in illustrations every now and then, you know. Then one day, one of the illustrations I did for my friend, it trended, bro. Like it blew up. Like bare people were like, I like this. And you know, all of this it helped my confidence, because I was like, okay, this is something I can actually commit myself to. So yeah. When I saw that people liked it, I was like, okay, I could really like go double down on this and make this become a thing. So I think since January, I've really committed to being better, not just at the tool, but being better as an illustrator in terms of what I see, how I see it, how I communicate it, what my style is, how I can make it unique. as a designer, everybody uses the same tool, but you have to now find the sweet spot of knowing how best to express whatever it is, how best to
Make
be a
use of
solution. Yeah, make use of the tool, how best to express it. Then it now goes from being making fine designs to how can my work help my clients solve problems. You go and making beautiful things, because now at this point I don't even care if you think my design is nice or fine, because that one is just subjective. But in my head I'm like, how can my illustrations help you solve said problem? So over the time, just have everyday commitment to reading, studying, watching videos, practicing, shooting shots to people I want to help, doing some free gigs here and there, getting some gigs, And it was over time I answered, I'm a product illustrator and I make illustrations for digital products and what have you. So I think this is a long story, has really been how I've really just navigated to being a product illustrator. Then I think in the last 3 months, I just realized that, I can actually learn motion design too now. I'm already making illustrations already, so knowing how to make them move should not be it will be difficult, but it shouldn't be a problem. And I wasn't afraid to take that leap because I already conquered myself in sense of from zero. I'd already figured out how to use Illustrator and how to communicate with Illustrator, right? And with Photoshop. So I was like, why not pick After Effects? So what's the worst that can happen? So gotten tutorials to courses, and I just taking that on. So yeah, my promotion design journey is tough because After Effects is quite the software, but I'm making progress. But yeah, that's really been my journey. This has been a very long explanation. I'm very sorry.
No, yeah. This is so cool. Like, this is a sweet journey. Like, I wish you shouldn't just stop. But I had to put out a lot of things. But before we go on the break, I'm going to drop the things I put out after the break. But before we go on the break, right? Let me just put it out there. Anyone listening to this, right? Fabian is a very brilliant guy, and I would always say it's like the last time we had conversations with our other pals, Ifedayo, Bola, that we had the last podcast with Shei and Viola Maz. We still mentioned it that Fabian was the best student of our set. So he had an award he collected, and then Fabian crushed all the external courses. He made sure that he was best at them all, even internal courses. The guy did well, so I give it up to this guy because this is quite a journey. This is a very big journey, and by the time we're back, I would just pinpoint everything that I got from it because I had to just jot some things down. So we'll be back, and after the break, we'll talk more. Stay tuned. This is The Bridge, and this is where you get to advertise all your products and services on Everyone is a Designer podcast by Femola Carrot. Our vision is to positively impact the world using multimedia to consistently engage the human mind, building a well-taught generation with a mindset that design is life and everyone is a designer. You can also stand a chance of winning one of our well-designed merchandise either by engaging this podcast with questions or contributions, or by sharing on various social media platforms. So, what are you waiting for? Start sharing now.
What does it take to make an average sandwich? Not much. 2 slices of bread, a dash of mayonnaise, maybe tomatoes, How about a great sandwich? Let's see. Ingredients: wheat bread, avocado, carrot, tomatoes, cabbage, lettuce, peanut butter, and chicken. Now that's rich and super healthy. And the best part is, it's so affordable and very available only at jmamas_cafe. Order yours now.
All right, welcome back from the break. Welcome back from the bridge. We are back to the final section of this podcast. Again, the topic is I don't know how to be a designer with nobody but Lou. We call him Lou. All right, so I mentioned, well, there are a lot of things he spoke about before the break. If you are just joining in after the break or you skipped, I would just kindly advise you to go back and listen to everything he mentioned. He said a lot of things. And before I say everything that I put down, I'd always say something that if you don't know, you don't know. All right, as we always say, it is what it is, man. You don't know, you don't know. And one of our interns at Family Carrots said something one day that if you don't know how to do it, then you should learn how to do it. And so I discovered that people that are ready to learn, people that are ready to unlearn and relearn, and people that never stop learning, they always get better. You know, far back as 2017, while I was doing my NYSC, I was interning at a design studio, and while I was about to go, the guy didn't want me to go. I really liked my stay there. He didn't want me to go, but I just had to go. And he said something. He said, I would never forget. He said, Femi, don't stop learning. You just need to continue learning. If you don't stop learning, you'll be the best at what you do. And Fabian mentioned something. He said he never stopped being inquisitive about what is this thing? I want to do this. I want to do this. But I think it was later when Fabian, when you got to the point where you had your end in view, that was when you could pick up some things. So I just have to jot it down. Like, okay, so my very first point is, you said you weren't afraid to put yourself out there right from the very fresh days of Instagram in Nigeria. So like I can remember vividly, Fabian always puts himself out there to the point that I could track the time when Fabian started dropping fashion patterns, and then he started doing fashion sketches, clothes sketches, and then you changed to just drawing simple illustrations on pen and paper. Then you try to do it digitally, and then I can follow all that, and I'm like, okay, this guy is consistent. And you do it like every day, if not every day, at least 4 times in a week. And I'm like, this guy is pushing. Like, this guy is really pushing. And I was, at that point, I was curious. Like, what's this guy looking for? Because, you know, while we were in school, not that Fabian was the greatest artist, but he developed himself, right?
Yeah, I was just fair. I was just okay at doing it,
but over the course of 4 years, or 5 years, I mean, you went from not good to being great in drawing, and I was like, what, Fabian? So you can shade this way, like you shade your drawings well. I'm like, what? I think I got a competition, man. But I'm like, no, I only compete with myself, right? Everybody is on his own lane. And okay, so the next point I put down it. He said something about being curious. That was why I had to tell Ore, we call her offering. Yeah, she's good. She should listen to this podcast. And I told her
she fine girl.
she is, and she designs well. She has she designed some of our communications on our Instagram page, and she's doing really well.
Shout out to her.
Yeah, shout out to offering. If you can hear this, all right. So like she's curious, and she said the same thing you said. You mentioned some time ago. You said you asked yourself, how do they paint and draw on the computer and it look like this? Already did the same thing. She told me something. She said, Femi, the reason I want to learn design, one of the reasons is because I'm curious. Like she says, she sits down practically and flip through pictures and says, how possible is it that you just go to a computer, you click your mouse, and then something this beautiful comes out that I need to know?
Now, can I just jump in and just say,
Yeah.
I think whoever it is that is this, when we're just saying, when Femi is talking about curiosity, it sounds very esoteric and something very huge and out of reach. So I really want to probably break it down so that it's easy for you to digest. I just think that as a person, just have that learner's mentality. When I say I don't know how to be a designer, it's like me giving myself freedom to be water. When I say freedom to be water, water is water, but if you give water time, water can break through rock, water can crack stones.
Anything,
Water can crack anything if you give water time. So when you say you should, when it's saying you should be curious, or when I say I'm curious, it means I don't see myself as great at anything. I don't see myself as good at anything because I think there's always room to be better. Yes, give yourself credit, give yourself props because you've been from somewhere. But when you're curious, you're like, there's okay, why is that like that? Why is this like this? And just be, like, when you're curious, it means you're humble in your head and you're open to anything. You're with whatever that happens. If you are curious, if you are interested in graphic design, be curious for anything. Like, how did you do this thing? How did this font happen? Just be. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, just be humble in your disposition in terms of yourself, because I don't ever want to get to a point where, even for now, I've not even really like popped in terms of, oh, they know me as this, that. That time will eventually come. But even if a time comes where I'm now renowned, whatever, I don't ever want to get to a point where I'm now docile and I'm now like, oh, I've arrived, Because I think as a person, you should just be curious, really. Because when you're curious, you unlock a lot of possibilities. And it's not even just as a designer. When you're curious as a designer, you can start being curious about arts, poetry, and different fields, and you see how everything connects into your work and everything. So I just wanted to just chip that in.
Well, I think just should I say broke the camel's back or hit the nail on the head. You just did it. Just did justice to that point. So, and as you were talking, I think the more you speak, the more I pick a point. As we're talking, just like, don't be satisfied. Don't ever be satisfied. And don't ever be satisfied with what you have learned so far, because the world is evolving. I think that's one of the things that I notice about myself. If I see something new, that I'll just want to know, okay, what is the working mechanism behind this thing? I may not even have to completely learn it to 100%. If I don't have the 100% interest. Lately I picked up web design, right? And I picked up a little bit of coding. Then I've not told people, I've not told anyone that. I think I've told one or two people that as it is now, right, I'm learning Python. And I know why I'm learning Python. I'm learning it probably because of animation and some other complex things that I want to drive. But because it's just linked to the animation and the graphics and 3D I do, I just like tell myself, I just must know this thing.
And you see, when you make it like that, sorry to cut you short. Make it like that, it's useful because you're not just learning it because you're not just learning Python now because I want to not do Python so that you say I know how to use Python. No, it's more like it's like a weapon you need. Like you're in a battlefront and you're like, I need this gun. We play games now. Sometimes that there are some stages you can't crack without a particular weapon. So in your head, you're like, Python is something I need. So you committing to it is not as difficult. Even if it's stressful, it will be difficult, but you understand, the end product.
You know why.
The output.
Exactly.
So you're working on it backwards and you're like, okay, I want to do this thing. Okay, let me start from here, So
So moving on to the next point, we have the next one. I said keep learning. I think we've hit that already.
We've talked.
And then you said something, and I had to jot something down. You said you were always, I think, if I can remember, but what I kept down was there is no perfect learning time. There's no time to say, okay, I have all the time in the world to sit down and learn this thing.
Yeah.
if you keep saying that the time will never come, so you just have to create the time. So that point where you said you later discovered that okay, you should have learned this Illustrator some years back in school. I was feeling like, oh, probably you had the opportunity, you had the chance.
It's not probably safe. It's definitely.
You had everything. Definitely, you had everything.
But should have learned it earlier.
But probably maybe you were just like, I'll just do my textile. And you were not just. But I knew the way you were talking, you were not still. If we look back then you were not contented with the textile, but you were like, you know what, this textile will still thrive because it's the in thing. Do you understand?
Yes.
But probably you didn't see that things would really go digital, like really, really digital. And I'm glad that you've caught it, like you caught it later.
Good thing to add to that. I think when I look back, I think it was a lesson in humility for me, because like you said, I don't like talking about like academic stuff, because in my head I'm like, it's easy to be good in school. When I say that, it sounds cocky, but when you just talk about it, Vivian is good. I'm like, whenever you guys, my guys, when you guys say, for my ear, they pay me for ear, because this is what I do. You understand? Where will I want to go? And work, or which country I want to meet? They'll be like, oh wow, I heard you were good in school. Nobody cares, So at that time, I was a good student, So I was a kid that probably now I internalized my academics too much, that I thought that was all there is, or I was good in school, so things work out for me, blah blah blah. Like, I think I was in that mind space, So I think I needed to get to the point where everything did not work out, where I became confused. So I had to now like recalibrate my mind state and everything, That's why now I'm all for like, bro, good. See, even if you're in the back of the class, even if you're bad in school, just know the one you know how to do, Know the one you know how to do, know the one you're interested in, and just double down on it, When I say that now, it sounds like I'm a hypocrite, because when I was in school, I was different from that. But I think I had to get to a point where nothing was working for me. Like, I was like, wow, why is this not working? Why am I frustrated in this? Why is this, I had to like, okay, I think I need to reinvent myself. I need to be a different beast. I need to be a different monster. And to do that, you have to die, literally. You have to die to your former self. I have to die to who I was. Like, when people meet me now, they're like, I didn't know this person is uni. I'm like, whoever I was in uni, that guy is dead. Like, it doesn't exist anymore. To be honest, on God, like, that person does not exist. I'm in a different place in my head. Because, do I sound when I'm saying be a forever learner, do that? I don't think I used to say that in school then. No, I don't think so. So I think I needed to just switch up completely and start observing and seeing what is really happening in the world. Okay, what is really working? When nothing is working, you have to now go back to the drawing board and observe. Okay, what is really working? Okay, where is the direction of things in terms of design, in terms of this? That's why even me now, even if I'm not an animator completely, or even if I'm not a 3D designer or a UI UX designer, I'm observing everything for me. Like, I know how everything is working. I know the direction for even web design. I have to observe everything. If a time comes when I say I'm an astronaut, if a time comes for me and I need to know how to do JavaScript, for me, I will do JavaScript. And you just hear that Fabian does not do product illustration again. It's like that's how I see. Like, I think we should just be very, very flexible too. That's why I even like when you said you are learning Python, because that's flexibility. You are evolving as demand comes. At your core, you're a designer. You see things like that, but the tools you use to communicate that design thing, it evolves now. And at some point, we need to scale and make a lot more money and have a lot more impact. You can't be the guy that's making it again, like you were doing 5 years ago. So I think I needed things to fuck up for me. I needed things to break down. I think the universe it taught me that lesson the hard way. Like, everything needed to fall and scatter and not work out for me to realize that, okay, maybe I'm on some stupid shit I need to fix up, So
that's really touching. I feel like crying here right now, bro.
Nah. It's
All
life.
right,
Man.
so well,
It's real life.
It's real life, and to corroborate all those things you've said, there's
Yeah.
this 10th point. It says, "Don't stop." I just put it there. Don't stop. Don't stop being you. Don't stop evolving. Don't stop unlearning and relearning. Don't stop bringing out the new layer of yourself. I think they say humans are like onions. We have layers upon layers, and a layer can get damaged today. Don't cry over that layer. Tear off that layer, bring out a new one, and then you keep moving.
Yeah.
So the next is I said we've mentioned it. Have an end in view. I think that I don't know where I learned that from, but I think that just comes natural to me. If I don't see something, I won't do it. Like if I don't see where I'm going, if I have a project or okay, so I'm a drummer, right? I do music. I love drums. I've not left it for over 20 years. I've been into it. Though a lot of people may not know, but I have an end in view. And this sweet end is probably, yes, I'm going to have a personal music studio. Yeah. And at the end of the day, this music studio would be where, we record voiceovers for animations and we do music for animations and do my music, for fun, play drums and all. Do you understand? So it's still like, if you're not seeing it, I don't think there's a need doing it. So, and I'm glad that you later discovered that, okay, it's like a reverse psychology mechanism. Like, you just see where you're going, then start from where you are, and then begin to work your way through. And the next is, I wrote the last, which is the last on the list. It says, all experiences in your journey really matters. All experience. There's nothing like, okay, because I didn't learn the software that time, I think I messed up. I think you not learning the software that time led you to something else, that led you to something else, that made you realize that, okay, this is not the way to think outside the world now. And then, so you just didn't depend on everything you learned in school. You just had a new self.
I died. I just died.
It was obvious. It was actually evident. There was a Fabian I used to know, but what I think we mentioned it that when you got out of school, you just flipped, and I think it's a good one. It's a very very good one. So even though in all the multitudes of words we've spoken today, I will even say, oh, can you tell us how you get your inspiration? There's no need to ask that, because it's just right here in everything you've said. The inspiration is just right there. And I think one of the things that inspires you is the fact that you said something. You said, as humans, we are complex, and we have the ability to do anything at any time. And be whatever you want to be.
You just have to decide that. Just decide
and keep at it. And I think that's your motivation in doing anything design. And I'm glad that you found a bigger field of where you can apply your illustration skills, and it's really nice. Just give us a conclusive statement, like one or two, and then we'll wrap up this podcast.
I mean, if let's assume you ask me what my inspiration is, I think I don't take myself very seriously. I'm a very playful person, and I have a very, very loud mind. So almost anything inspires me, to be honest. I see myself I call myself an astronaut. I see myself as a rapper. Like, it's the way rappers are on the come up, that they figure out how to be like independent artists and own their masters and release albums every year. I see myself like that. So I could be listening to music and I'm drawing inspiration for my work. I could listen to anything. I could be doing anything, and all of it just joins my work. I think like that. I think even Femi could tell, I've always been that guy. I've always had a very unique perspective to things. It may not be smart, it may not be an intelligent perspective, but it's just my own weird way of looking at things. So I think the point I would like to bring up at that is, I think you should, as people, you pay attention to how you are, how you really are, even if how you are is not cool or popular or mainstream. I think just pay attention to it and really give yourself room to grow as that person, because at some point yeah, that is really your ticket to anything, really. At this point, I've not gone far very well, but there are a lot of rooms I get into, and it's just how I am that people just like. It's not necessarily how I illustrate, and how I am spills into how I make my art or how I make my designs, you know. So I think whoever you are, even if it's not cool, even if they say it's corny, even if they say it's stupid or it's boring or whatever, please pay attention to yourself, how you are. Those are your voices in your head, listen to them and really like give them room to exist, you know, because it's cliche, but when they say everybody else is taking, be yourself, like that's really fact. So I think as people, please don't shut that voice in your head down. Like your true self is in your head. Give it room to exist. And one last one is really like you can be anything. You not take me seriously because I know I will tell you the last one. I don't have money, so you know this is what I'm saying. Yeah, if I had money now, you believe me.
I'm not Jeff Bezos,
yeah,
man.
I'm not Jeff Bezos. If I say you can be anything, but at least on my own level, when I say you can be anything, I mean
anything.
Yeah, like you know, there's sometimes we are all afraid of anything. We are afraid of stuff. Like sometimes there's a quote that this person said, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And what that means is when you say your deepest fear is not you are inadequate. In our hearts, yeah, Femi, we know the dreams we have. We know the things that we see ourselves doing. But in the day-to-day, it's hard. In the day-to-day, it's almost impossible. In the day-to-day, it doesn't look like it. Even me today, I still had thoughts of, can I ever achieve this thing I want to achieve? You know, in the day-to-day, it's difficult to see yourself achieving those things that you think about because thinking is easy. You know, dreaming is easy. Writing a goal is easy now. Anybody can write a goal. I can write. I want to be. You know, but doing it is tough, bro. Like doing it is waking up in the morning every time. You know, showing up. But so when I say you can be anything, I mean, if you can just commit to just pick something, stop being everywhere, pick something and just be strong head, coconut head on that thing, bro. Like face it and just do your thing. You get
like this guy.
I
get coconut head.
On that thing, like we fight for it, you know. And just have it, just have it nice. Some things may not work, you will fail a lot. You know, all this my story is just a story of failure, really, because it's just a story of failure, but I don't say it like failure because I know all of it is just like a good story, but you will fail a lot, you make mistakes a lot. It's like it's part of this, it's part of it. If you never fail self, check yourself, it's a problem. You know, you fail a lot, you make mistakes a lot, you doubt yourself a lot, people will not trust you a lot, you will lose clients a lot, you will lose money a lot, you'll be broke a lot. But I mean, what's life without ups and downs, bro? So just stay and do your thing, you know. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much, Fabian. We enjoyed the time with you. And just one more statement from me to corroborate all the things Fabian has said is that if you are not scared of your goal, if you are not scared of your dream, it's not big enough yet. So once you begin to get scared of what you dreamed about, then you just scratched the surface of the iceberg. So thank you very much, Fabian. Okay, you want to tell us? Oh, come on, do so. I really like this podcast. Come on, bro.
If you not let you do say dreams, goals, targets, just look for say if your father has money or your mother has money, or you can have rich husband or rich wife. Just look for a rich husband or a rich wife, or a wife that father has money, and just plug yourself to their money, because not everything is by force to hustle. It's not force. That's
not by force. It's not by force.
Well, anyways, thank you, Femi, for having me. Really.
Thank you, Fabian. I really do appreciate your time, and I appreciate how truthful and how open you are in this podcast.
I have to pull up for you now. It's you now. It's not everybody that will pull up for you.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. All right, so this is the end of the podcast. See you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Fabian. I'm so glad that you could come to the studio to share your time with us. But before you go, just tell the audience where they can get your illustrations, your Instagram handle, your Twitter handle, and all the handles that you can ever think of. So they won't miss one update from you and your illustrations.
Okay. You can follow me on Instagram on @useloname, @_useloname. That's _OSELUONAMEN. That's my name. It's quite a journey on Instagram, so you see where I started from to where I am at the moment. I don't post as much, but yeah, you can follow me there. Then on Twitter, I think you should check me out on Twitter because I'm always on Twitter. Also at _useloname, OSELUONAMEN. Yeah, those two places mostly. I don't use LinkedIn as much for now, so it's mostly Instagram and Twitter. It was great being here. My name is Oselu, and you are listening to the Everybody's a Designer podcast with Femula Carrot.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a blessed time. Yeah.
You too. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to another beautiful episode of Everyone is a Designer podcast by Femula Carrot. I hope you got something from it because I sure did get something from it. Once again, this is Femula Carrot, and our vision is to positively affect the world with multimedia to consistently engage the human mind, building a well-thought generation with a mindset that design is life and everyone is a designer. You can stand a chance of winning one of our well-designed merchandise, either by engaging this podcast with questions or contributions, or by sharing on various social media platforms. You can also check us out on our website at www.femolacarrot.design. So what are you waiting for? Start sharing, start liking, don't stop listening. See you in the next episode.